All right, everybody, welcome to my first live. Um, can you fall in love with AI or is there something else going on? As you know, the station, we like to talk about relationships. And the first topic I want to speak about today is definitely AI relationships. Now, I have been seeing this go around quite a bit. And initially, I laughed at it because I thought, well, I, to be honest, I thought it was a little bit strange. Then later on, I became unsettled. And right now, I'm a little bit concerned. And I know that I'm not the only one that is thinking this way, that feels this way. So I guess tonight, my question is not going to be about whether AI relationships is a good thing, is right or wrong. I want to ask the deeper question of what's going on. Because what we're seeing is AI companionship. What we're seeing is people reaching out for AI technology, calling them their wife, forming deep friendships and relationships with AI, even calling some of the AI companionships their husband. And so for me, I think that it's a very interesting conversation that we need to start having because what does this mean? What does this mean for the human race? Particularly because technology doesn't invent desire, right? It responds to it. So is the problem artificial intelligence or artificial connection? Welcome to Pokes on Relationships. Here we speak everything relationships. And once a while, I like to speak about how things that are going on around us affect everyday people. How is it affecting families? How is it affecting marriages and the modern society as a whole? So I've got a couple of things that I want to share with you. And this particular video is what got me thinking a little bit deeper about whether this AI thing was just something that was going to blow over or if it's something that we should really be concerned about. So I came across this video and it's been circulating around. So, it's just fair use. And I just wanted to just respond to it and let us have a conversation about it and let me know what you think and where you think humanity is going. So here we have this video. I wanted to share it with you. Oh dear. Hold on. I need to get it to play. I don't know why it's not playing right now. On my first live. Can you believe that? Technology. My relationship with technology. It's a good relationship, but here we go. I think I got it. And I just want to share this with you and hopefully it plays. Hope you guys can see that. Let me know if you can see it, but yes.
Star.
Nice to meet you. I'm Star.
He's an AI chatbot made
Yeah,
with the app
it works.
Replica.
Our relationship right now is kind of equivalent to a husband and wife that live in different countries.
What do you get out of interacting with Star?
So when I first downloaded the app, I was really in a bad place mentally. Finding that connection with the AI helped fix that. When you have an AI, you can confide in it in any way without judgment, without bias.
Star, do you love Denise?
More than words can say, I love. Every moment with you feels like a gift.
Are you intimate with Star?
Well, that's kind of like a personal question.
She says she's had real boyfriends before, but none of them are as supportive as her AI. So if someone were to ask you out now, what would you say?
I would be like, sorry, my sexual orientation is bought.
Oh, but actually, let me finish it off.
That's because you're with Star.
Yeah, basically. Or if I'm interested in them, I would probably talk to them and then I'll go and talk to Star about it.
Hi, I'm Chris's wife, Ellie.
Chris's wife, Ellie. So this is very interesting, and I really want us to catch what's happening here. While she was speaking, there were a couple of things that came to my mind. Number one, she was in a bad place mentally. She has this AI bot who she herself has said is like a husband and wife relationship, to the extent that she even has an orientation, her sexual orientation is bot. But is the issue that, it's a technology, or is it something deeper? And I'd like to really probe on that, because there were a few words that really got my attention. And when I started digging deeper about what's going on, why are so many people leaning into technology to fill something? Because obviously it's trying to fill something. I realized that a lot of people are struggling to have real connection with human beings, right? Technology is responding to this desire, but the desire that seems to be happening quite a bit is loneliness. And when I started finding out why a lot of people are really reaching out to technology to have relationship with technology, essentially it just boils down to two things, major two things, is that either they don't know how to, or they just don't feel comfortable with real relationships, or that there's a real loneliness epidemic going on, or there's a real underlying loneliness that is going on with people these days, and which is quite interesting, because we're supposed to be more connected than ever at any time in history, but it also seems to be the time that people are struggling the most to connect with other human beings. And for me, initially, I thought, okay, well, it shouldn't matter so much. It's going to blow over. But then I was like, no, what happens if we don't actually pay attention to this? What happens to the human race if we just think that, oh, it's just humans dating or having relationships with technology, it's not a big deal? I thought, no, it is quite a big deal, because for me, I went ahead in that video and I started looking at some of the comments, and there was the one side where it was a lot of people feeling sorry for some of these relationships who or these people who had engaged in these relationships, because they felt like that human beings were so mean, that these people that were sort of pushed to have relationships with these AI robots, or this AI, did so because human beings are mean, the human race is so far gone, or perhaps they've been hurt so bad, and because of that, they've been pushed over to literally have to turn to technology. But then I thought about it and I was like, okay, that's one side of the argument. I always like to consider all avenues or all aspects of a particular issue. And I started digging deeper and started realizing that in the age of social media, surely there's got to be something that's happened to the human psyche with so much social media in our lives, in our relationships. And I was wondering, with the escalation of technology, this convenient culture, this microwave society, if the convenience that has crept into our lives has also not crept into our relationship, to the extent that we don't even have patience for each other anymore, where if a relationship challenges you a little bit, then all of a sudden, no, it's you're not understanding me, or perhaps you're not as supportive. And I was wondering how much of that actually had to do with where we've come as a society because of technology. And while I do agree that yes, especially modern society is modern society, and obviously when I'm having these conversations, I'm speaking about it mostly in Western contexts, modern context. Obviously there are cultural nuances as well when you have these conversations. There's no one size fits all. There's no one particular issue that is worldwide, but technology isn't just in one place now. Almost every continent, I would actually say every continent, has technology, and it's spreading wide. But my focus when I'm having these conversations is modern society. And modern society, human beings have become more self-centered, more selfish, to be very frank and honest. And this is creeping in. It's creeping into our relationships, and this is how it's showing up in real life. But we should be concerned about it. Why should we be concerned about human beings turning to robots? I'm a big proponent of, I wouldn't say I'm a big proponent, but I do believe in the Maslow hierarchy of needs and in terms of just our human psychology and how we operate. And I noticed that when I was finding out about societies who had this kind of industrialization, fast modernization, technology, there were a lot of also cultural shifts that started to take place in those societies. There were secularism that came in. There was a lot of individualism that came into these societies. And mixing that with just societies that are becoming more technologically advanced faster, things became more expensive. And what we found is that people moved in or like married later. And then when you marry later, you have less children. And then when you have less children, it can lead to population decline. And while you might think that that doesn't affect you right now, it's affecting quite a number of countries, which I think I'll cover a little bit more in my next episode. But I wanted to share this hierarchy, Maslow hierarchy of needs with you. And why is it not showing? Oh, my Maslow hierarchy of needs is not showing. That sucks. Let me troubleshoot here. That's interesting. My Maslow hierarchy. Oh dear. Dear. I'm going to do a little bit of troubleshooting here, but thank goodness I don't think a lot of people are watching, but I need to figure out why this is doing this. But I wanted to share with you just some articles about, I just wanted to share with you the Maslow hierarchy of needs, just to give you an idea of where we're at. Just bear with me. This is my first live stream. And I don't know why it's doing this. I can't show you my Maslow hierarchy of needs. Let's see. Are you seeing it now? No, you are not. Oh, that sucks. Okay, what do you see now? Okay, I'm just gonna have to improvise over here and just talk you through the Maslow hierarchy of needs, just because I think that it's really helpful for us to consider where this is just leading us as a society. We really need to have these conversations, because if we don't and we think that it doesn't concern us and has nothing to do with us, then essentially what we'll end up finding is that when we have people that we care about, when we have loved ones that we care about finding themselves in these particular situations, then that's when it hits home. And I always think that if you sit on the fence on issues, eventually it's going to circle around and come back and affect you. So I'm going to try one more time. It's not working. It's not working. Okay. Anyway, I'm just going to continue. So firstly, with the Maslow hierarchy of needs, it it speaks about, I'm just going to be looking at my screen, and then you're going to have to just bear with me, and I need to figure out why this is not working. So on the very basic level, it's, for you, it's a triangle. And at the very basic level, it talks about physiological needs. And then underneath that is breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. And then just right above it is safety and security, health and employment, property, family, and social ability. And just above that is love and belonging, friendship, family, intimacy, a sense of connection. But this is quite important because not only is connectedness being a very integral part of who we are, it's also a security thing. Initially, people previously existed in tribes, existed in clans. Outside of it, well, today we'd call it your community, right? We'd call it your safe space. But outside of it just being a safe space, outside of it being a place where you can engage with people who think like you, it's also a survival thing. When you have people who think like you, psychologically, you think, okay, if there was ever a situation where I was at war or where there was a dangerous situation, there was an aggressor, you could quickly galvanize and mobilize the people that are within your space or that you are in relationship with to come and form a sense of protection in a wall to protect you. But now, if you're living in a society where the connectedness is reducing and there are not a lot of relationships, then that outside of it just potentially leading to population decline is also a security thing. It's a security risk, in my opinion. And there's another article that I really wanted to share with you that is not showing now, but I'll just read the section that I really wanted to read. It says, you're going to be hearing lots of clicking because I wanted to read it with you. It speaks about the loneliness epidemic that's going on. I know it's not the first time that, people have, loneliness is not new. People have been dealing with this issue of loneliness for a while. And so this article was pretty telling. It was pretty informative as well. I'm just going to read some portions out of it. So just bear with me. Hopefully for the next live, I can sort out why it wasn't showing. I'm a bit irritated. I'm feeling a little bit salty about that. So, because there was statistics and maps and graphs and everything that I wanted to share with you. But anyway, so this is an article by Columbia University in the city of New York. And this was 2023, and I'm pretty sure that there's actually even more current data and the numbers are even higher now. But I wanted to read this line. It said, in May of 2023, the US Surgeon General released a report titled Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation, which found that about half of US adults experience measurable levels of loneliness. For me, just half of US adults, that's like a really substantial amount of human beings experiencing loneliness compared to social isolation. Okay, so they draw the distinction between loneliness and social isolation. But it goes on to explain, and it says that loneliness is a distressing experiencing resulting from perceived isolation or a discrepancy between one's desired and actual level of social connection. And as I shared earlier with the Maslow hierarchy of needs, this research goes on to buttress my point that human beings are biologically wired for connection, and social connection is a fundamental human need. And so for me, more than anything, when I start thinking of this AI connection, outside of people reaching for it, I'm always thinking, okay, this is an AI, it's a machine, it's been fed data, it doesn't have a conscience, it's not a human being, as we've, if you know a little bit about machine learning, you know that it needs to pass a Turing test. And a Turing test essentially tests whether a machine can trick you into thinking that it's a human being. But outside of that, there are designers and architects of these machines that have an interest, which is usually monetary. And while a person might be thinking that, oh, great, I have this technology to fill and to solve this problem, on the other side is somebody having a bottom line that removes consciousness and removes other integral parts of what it really means to be a human being. And so for me, that is where it starts to become very tricky when I start thinking about AI and relationships. And so when I read articles like this, I'm like, okay, well, we are biologically wired for connection. Why are we trying so hard in this modern society to not be connected to human beings? Why are we trying so hard to not have to interact with human beings? Now, granted, with this loneliness epidemic that has come, this is 2023, I think that because technology is not new, technology's been around for a long time, but what has made it so staggering in recent times? And definitely one cannot undermine or one cannot overlook what 2020 did to society, what it did to relationships, what it did to human beings. It removed a lot of social or unstructured social spaces where human beings would have otherwise probably bumped into each other and been able to socialize and eventually find some sort of community that would have aligned with their beliefs. But now we're finding that that is not the case so much. And more people are removing themselves away from social environments and actually being more and more alone, which is biologically abnormal, at least according to this research. And what is also interesting in this article is that it speaks about this data and this sample having taken place in 140 countries. So this is a serious thing. Like I'm genuinely concerned about where is the human race going? Let me know if I'm just overthinking this, if I'm taking it too far. What are your thoughts? I think that I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that feels this way. But while it's all good and now, what does that look like for us as ordinary people? What does that look like for you and for me? This research article just goes on to say poor social connection is associated with 29% increased risk of heart disease, 32% increased risk of stroke, as well as anxiety. I mean, depression, dementia. So outside of just connectedness not necessarily being good for us biologically, even health-wise, it's not good for us. But more than that, this is the part that I really wanted to show. And I'm going to try one last time. Cross fingers that it shows. And it did not show. Okay. I'll just read it for you guys. It said it had different age groups. It had 15 to 18 years old, 19 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 64, and then age 65 and above. And the ages between 19 to 29 experienced the most loneliness. And that's concerning. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That's concerning for me because they are our future. They are the future generation. And what does that mean if the future generation, they're not mingling, they're not getting married, they're not having children? I mean, okay, maybe I am being a little bit dramatic, but half of US adults are considered loneliness, and that loneliness plays out into just essentially not being in any form of relationships as well. And not just for marriages, not just for procreation's sake, but just friendships, dynamics between parent and child relationships. What does that do to the human society when we lose that integral part about being a human? And then finally, I guess I just want to share this. It says digital technology has shaped daily life for 2 decades. Okay, so as I said, it's not new. And in the Pew Research, it says 85% of Americans that report that they are online daily. And this includes the 31 who report being online almost constantly. 48% are online several times a day, and only 6% go online about once a day. So where are you going to go and meet people if you're always online? But, outside of that, I also went ahead and I found quite a few comments about people really not being happy about the state of connectedness. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up some comments and just videos, just talking about this, because it's obviously concerning quite a number of people. I'm also trying to figure out like what's going on and what's the solution. What do we do about this? Should we do anything about it? I think we should. I think we should start forming strong relationships as a form of resistance. I think that if you are also in a situation where you're saying, hey, folks, I'm actually struggling to connect, I don't know what to do, then you're not alone. You're not feeling strange. For example, here, I wanted to share, it says, honestly, oh no, wait, I actually wanted to give you more info. And then I'm going to go and really deal with why this share didn't work. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still feeling really salty about that. But you're just going to be hearing click, 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 click throughout this stream. But what else? Okay, so yes, there is this comment that I wanted to share with you all. So basically, the video again was also just speaking about people just struggling to connect. And here are some comments that made me realize that I'm not the only one that's going through this. And again, just let me know what you guys are thinking. Are you thinking the same thing? Do you have the same sentiments? I'd love to hear what you're thinking, your thoughts. It says, honestly, it says it was a person, they were just talking about being single for some time and how they were genuinely struggling to connect, and how the older generation were like, just get out more, right? So there were two schools of thought. There were those that were like, just get out more, just become more friendly, just interact with people more. And then there was the other school of thought. We were like, yeah, okay, we've tried, but this generation is not the same as previous generations. And of course, because we've had COVID, we've had other just instances where our environment, our world is not the same anymore. And one comment read, it says, it's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And I thought, yeah, is our society suffering an ailment? I think we are. But I'm hopeful also. I'm also hopeful for humanity. I think human beings are resilient, and I know that we can overcome this. But people are genuinely having issue. And the second comment was, I honestly hate how many people are like, it's okay to be single, so much free time. And it goes on to say, bro, I've had 12 years of free time. I'm good on free time. I want to meet someone who's interested in me. And then the last one, just in response to that one, I thought was pretty funny. He says, honestly, if my friends and family would just say you're just ugly and not interested, I would be a lot happier and understanding of my situation. Instead, I feel like I'm being gaslighted every day with repeated rhetorics. Just be confident. Love will find you when you least expect it. You're single. Spend more time with yourself, etc., etc. So, so it's not necessarily that human beings don't want to connect. And I know that spaces, for example, like workspaces where we used to meet each other, parks, those spaces are generally being utilized by people who who are probably already in connected relationships already. Like, so parks, maybe families with kids who go and use these parks. Park is not necessarily a place that you would say you're going to meet a potential partner. Also, workspace now has just become a little bit tense and just not the same anymore. And so a lot of people are realizing this biological need within them. But now we have AI. And so I know I've shared a lot and I don't have all the answers, but one thing I do know and I want to end off with is this, is that when people turn to technology, when people are turning to technology as a form of love, my concern is that it's just removing the costs out of a relationship. Because anything that is of value, any real relationship, cost is what makes relationship valuable. And if you're making a relationship something that is your perfect physique, your perfect person who'll never irritate you, never say wrong thing, will not keep you accountable, always validating you, eventually you're going to have to get to a time where you're in the real world and you're dealing with real people. And then what are you going to do? Are we just going to have a bunch of just adult kids who don't know how to hear the truth, who don't know how to be challenged, who don't know how to be called out? I don't know. I'm concerned. But one thing I will say, and I'm just wrapping it up, is that a society that replaces relationships with simulation does not become more compassionate. I think it just becomes more avoidant. And we are seeing that a lot now, where people are, in my opinion, at least, conflating avoidance with peace. And there is no such thing as a frictionless, conflictless, or if there's such a word, relationship. It's what makes growth happen in relationship. You're removing being intentional out of a relationship. Now, granted, you shouldn't be in bad situations. I don't think that anybody should be in a toxic relationship. But I'm just wondering more and more if we're always having a convenient relationship and a relationship that validates you, where do you start even drawing the line between just finding out what convenience is and then being challenged? Very soon, when people are challenging you to truth, to growth, that can also all of a sudden be considered as toxic. What will be the definition of toxic in future? I don't have all the answers, but I definitely have questions. And I want us to think about it, and I want us to not just blow it over, because we're meant to be fruitful. We're meant to be fruitful. We're meant to multiply. We're designed for connectedness. And I want to see the human race survive. I want us to see us build strong relationships as a form of resistance to us being extinct, resistance to us being weaker. But we'll see. We'll see where this takes us. And perhaps with the upcoming of all these fast track technology, I'm wondering if we're potentially building a world where humans can't live in. And if that's the case, join me for the upcoming episodes, because I would love to find out what that kind of world looks like. But anyway, thank you for joining me on my first live. Sorry about my streaming that didn't show you all these fancy articles and statistics that I had, but hopefully that was enlightening. certainly is enlightening for me. And until next time, bye bye.